This is exactly what the Chicago Bulls needed. Zach LaVine and Vooch playing at an all-star level, the young core starting to show signs of progression, and a key injury update around Lonzo Ball. We're going to be talking about what this means for the Chicago Bulls. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are really going over the state of the Chicago Bulls as they've gone through their first 12 games. I think that is something we'll do after 10 games or so, just really looking at the totality of this team. But I want to start with the injury report surrounding the Chicago Bulls, and that is with Lonzo Ball. So we do have an injury update. You can find this, I believe, in Chicago Sun-Times. And it is Coach Billy Donovan going over what is going on with Lonzo Ball and the possibility of him returning. Lonzo Ball did say that he wanted to get out here this weekend, or at least he's targeting getting back to the team. But Billy Donovan is saying that he has started to do dribbling work. He's not dribbling it all over the place, but he is progressing pretty well there. And he's saying that the key hurdle for Lonzo Ball now is going to be his ability to throw the basketball, not have any pain in the wrist, and obviously to catch the basketball and not have any pain there. And lastly, just defensively, is he going to be able to hand check defenders, box out and things like that, and not have any issues with the wrist? And so it sounds like Billy Donovan is saying it is a possibility that we could see Lonzo Ball this weekend, but he doesn't sound too optimistic. It sounds like, that Lonzo Ball is still going to have to show this team or the medical staff that he can get over those hurdles and there's no setbacks. Because remember, his wrist, it was bad enough to where if he kept playing, it might have would have required surgery. And so this is why I think the Chicago Bulls are being very precautious with this injury. And I think that when Lonzo Ball does come back, if this team can focus like they've done against the New York Knicks, and really they've shown that for a portion against the Cavs and then some of these wins that we have seen, if they can stay focused, stay locked in, I can only think that Lonzo Ball coming back is going to help this team with his high basketball IQ. He's certainly going to help this unit off the bench. He's going to help them close down games. And so maybe that helps eliminate some of the turnovers as well. And so that is something that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing is Lonzo Ball's return. And so with that being said, I wanted to talk about some other key players here for the Chicago Bulls, because I feel like, there are some players that have really shown out and really showing that they are headed in the right direction. And so let us go ahead and just bring up a team picture of some of these players that have played pretty well. And so I want to start with with Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has played at an all-star level, and I love that Zach LaVine is so locked in. I've talked about the fact that he's just been very professional with what has been going on with the trade talks and things like that. And I love how he just really shut down everything at media day when he came in and he said, look, if you didn't hear it from me, then it's just nothing, right? And so I love that about him. And I love the fact that he said, look, I am locked in and I'm ready to just play whatever role is necessary for this team in order for it to be successful. And I think that he has absolutely done that. And, for all the narratives out there that he doesn't play defense, look, he is playing defense. He's playing some very good on-the-ball defense, which has been pretty good. It's something that Stacey King has mentioned in his podcast and also on the broadcast that, look, Zach LaVine has the athleticism to absolutely be a pretty good defender if he wants to. And you're starting to see that. You're starting to see that kind of defensive or two-way play that we saw when he was an Olympian and also too when he was an all-star. And so look, Zach LaVine is super locked in. I absolutely love it. And Joe Cowley has come out and said that he believes that the whole back and forth between Billy Donovan and their feud or whatever is over at this point, and they're both focused in and locked in. Not sure how true that is, but I think that they've both been locked in for just the betterment of this team, and I think that is huge. That's something that this team needs. And one of the things that Casey Johnson talked about during the broadcast is that, they're saying that Zach LaVine has been a leader to this team. That's something that if you looked at that ESPN article and they were saying that Zach LaVine could not lead, he is leading and helping a team playing some winning basketball. So that's huge for him, especially if he wants to be traded. I'm not not sure. But if he wants to stay as well, I think that that bodes well. And I think that there is a possibility that he could stay with the Chicago Bulls because AK, even when he was saying before the offseason or going into the offseason, excuse me, that, I know we need to make some changes, but I wanted to give this group another chance. I could see him sticking with Zach LaVine in this resurgence and then seeing if he can really just build around him with these young pieces and see perhaps if he can win more games with that. I could see a scenario like that, even though there is still that narrative that him and Vooch will be traded. So next up, I want to talk about Vooch. Look, Vooch, he's played extremely well, and I love the fact that Vooch is just going in the post. Look, last night, I know Karl Anthony Towns scored 46 points, and I know he had the 10 rebounds, and he was giving Vooch the business. But make no mistake about it, Vooch was also giving him the business in the post, and I love that about Vooch. This is something that we've always wanted from Vooch. Yes, we know that he's challenged as a defensive player, but he's playing hard out there. And look, he's been in some posters this year, but it's because he's making the correct rotations out there. And I've talked about him being a constant source of offense for this team, and it's been needed because with this offense, instead of just settling for the three, I think they're understanding if we don't have it, we can go ahead and give it to Vooch, who has a post presence, and we can work off of him. That's okay to dump it into our big man and see if he can get a better shot at the basket, or we can crash, we can cut off that, and we can get an easier basket. So I love that Vooch and LaVine have quietly led this way. I'm glad that they're playing well. And I feel like if AK is going to execute a trade on either, he had better make sure that he gets a good trade and we are not giving up trade assets here. And so next up, Patrick Williams. Okay, so Patrick Williams, I've talked about his defense and I've talked about how that has looked pretty good thus far, but he's needed to do it on both ends of the floor. So not just defensively, but he's also got to be a contributor offensively on the floor as well, especially if he wants to still start, because I think that Julian Phillips is getting better each game. I feel like Modest Buzelis, we got a chance to see if you continue to give him minutes that he's going to get better. And Dalen Terry, he's out there, he's scrapping. So look, there are people out there that I think can definitely start for this team and definitely be an impact. And hey, if we wanted to go small, I could even see them even throwing Ayo out there. And I know that that's wild, but look, the way Ayo is playing and closing down games, it's a possibility. So with Patrick Williams, I want to go back to what he did last night, where he put in 18 points last night. He was hitting three-point shots. He was dunking out there. I think it's funny that you see in the social media right now where Billy Donovan was talking about he was going to call a timeout after Patrick Williams got that tip-in jam, which kept us in the game. But it is just kind of pointing to the fact that that's what we need from Patrick Williams. Like, it's okay for him to use that athleticism. You know, if he wants to use that athleticism and then just get in there with that grit, I think he can be an impact like that every night. And I'm not worried about the fact that Jalen Brunson got a critical bucket on him. And I love the fact that he had the hand in the face. He's contesting on that last shot and it goes out, thankfully, for the Chicago Bulls. But I like the fact that he's competing still defensively. And I think that this is something that Patrick Williams must build upon. Hopefully in these next 10 games, we're talking different about Patrick Williams and saying, hey, he looks like this is the guy that the Chicago Bulls were looking for when they signed him to that 5-year deal. And so next up, I wanted to talk about Ayo. And so look, I know Ayo Dosunmu has really struggled with his three-point shooting, but I love the fact that Ayo, much like Kobe White, they are fearless, and I like the fact that they can be struggling at any point in the season, and they find ways to turn it around, which is why I think it was laughable when you saw that post from Joe Cali saying that both of these players would be on the trading block. I'm saying to myself, how could either of these players be on the trading block when they have shown you that they can be on the floor in clutch time and they can help this team contribute, and it doesn't matter who's around them. At this point in time, I think if you were to bring in, I don't know, some more veterans or all-star players, they would love to play with Ayo and Kobe White. And so with Ayo, one of the big things for him Look, in clutch time, this is something that I saw on Bleacher Nation. This is Elias Schuster who wrote this, but he added that, look, he scored 9 points in the fourth. He also had 3 assists. He had the key free throws, which tied up the game. That's before Jalen Brunson went down, hit that shot and put them up. And then we obviously were able to come back down and get those 3 free throws. But still, you see that Ayo's making key plays. And right now he's closing down games. He had 16 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block. He has basically shown us that he is our best defender on the team. And now, with that being said, and with these performances that we're seeing, he's closed the game over Giddy the last 3 times. You have to wonder, when is Billy Donovan going to say to himself, I might have to put Ayo in the starting lineup, right? Because that is, I think, what we're getting at, because Ayo Dosunmu, he's just starting to turn it on. And I love that about Ayo Dosunmu. I've said this before, if you put him on the bench, I think he's going to figure it out. It wouldn't shock me if he somehow got into the 6th man of the year kind of rankings or whatever that looks like. I think he would be able to figure that out at some point. And I think that if you put him in the starting lineup, he would be able to figure that out. And there was a piece where Casey Johnson once again had talked to him, and he said that, yeah, I want to be in the starting lineup. And so I just think with him competing, wanting to be out there, I think at some point he might find his way out there. And so then that leads me to the last point, and that is with Josh Giddy. And so I think that Josh Giddy has done a great job as far as fixing that 3-point shot. I think that he is now making it to where defenses are going to have to honor him. I love the fact that he hit a step back jumper in Karl Anthony Towns' face yesterday. I love that. And, you know, I like the fact that Josh Giddy hasn't said very much over these last 3 games and not closing. And, you know, you have to give him credit because Billy Donovan put him in the game and he essentially got the game-winning assist to Coby White. Even though it was a foul, you know, it was his ability not to take the risky pass over to Zach LaVine on that lob, get it to Coby White, and where he got fouled. And so I think that that is certainly going to help this team, and it's just going to be a continued process of making sure that if you're going to go with Josh Giddy long-term, which I think the Chicago Bulls are going to, you're going to have to continue to build it out correctly. And that means that with this young core, we're going to need to see some more with Julian Phillips, because I think that he can absolutely be a 2-way player for us. Dalen Terry, look, I don't care. Dalen Terry could have double zeros out there, but I love the way that he competes, the effortness, the chippiness. Like, I think that he finds ways to help this team. He must be out here. And then with Modest Buzelis, we see that the confidence is not rocked. He hasn't been playing. You play him 12 minutes. He responds. He has 3 blocks. He's taking 3-point shots. He doesn't care. He's missing them. He's still taking them out there. And he looks like offensively he's understanding rotations. You see that when he makes that nice cut and he gets that dunk. So he understands what's going on from a spacing standpoint. I can only imagine that that's only going to get better as this season goes along. And then that goes to my last point. When you add Lonzo Ball back, look, Lonzo is going to help this team when it comes down to closing. I would have to think that when you get Lonzo out there, that might cut down some of these turnovers. You cut down some of these turnovers and you start to focus really now on the basic stuff. This Chicago Bulls team could be pretty scary, I think, down the stretch for some teams. And so, anyway, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about this Chicago Bulls team as they've gone through their first 12 games. You know, do you believe in this young core moving forward? What do you feel about Ayo Dosunmu? Do you feel like, yes, he is ready to make a major jump this season, maybe change his role for this team? Do you feel like Zach LaVine, maybe there's a chance he does stay with the Chicago Bulls? And with Vooch, do you feel like it is a possibility he's moved before the trade deadline? And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Anyway, before we jump out of here, I just want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the content. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest as we try to reach a small goal of 5,000 subscribers before the NBA season ends. Just want to let you know about 64.2% of you that watch are not subscribed, so make sure that you go ahead, mash that subscribe button for me as it means a lot. Look, even though we still have some more questions about this Chicago Bulls team, and yes, we are frustrated because when you're up 22 points, you're supposed to close out games like that. But I love the fact that this young team pulls it together. They find a way to keep it together in the clutch. and they get out of New York with a win. I think that it is wins like this that you take, you build upon that, and once this team gets to where it needs to, as far as the roster construction and everything else, this is going to be a very good team. Hopefully it's a contender someday. I want to see that again. All right, guys. So I'm saying go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.